Enter the stars, and good evening and good morning to some of you, different parts of the world. This series will be the most important series that I've ever done on this channel. And I'm thankful and grateful to those of you that have shown up to take part in the beginning of what I believe will be one of the most important continuations of discoveries that we've done on this channel. Now, this is very important to me because I almost feel as though this is the reason why I was put on this planet. God chooses different people for different gifts. And I think he chose me for what I'm going to present to you today. We are going to start from the beginning. And originally I was going to mostly go through this playlist and show you guys what we found over the last couple years. But then I realized that some of this stuff needed to be updated. We've learned so much more. And I just thought that it would be much better if I just started from the beginning. Now, I don't have notes. This stuff is imprinted on my brain. And this is what I'm going to also demonstrate to you, that once you know the body code, once you get it, you don't forget, because it's that amazing. Now, we've had a long journey of looking at all of the things that the enemy is obsessed with. And we almost had to go through that. And I'm going to explain to you why. Most of the world is asleep. They're asleep. And it's not their fault. It's not that they're bad people. But what has happened is they've been lulled to sleep through the Pied Pipers of fate, the Pied Pipers of evil. And that's exactly where they want you. They entertain us with all of their vices and keep us asleep. And so what has happened is we run into a situation where it is very hard to snap people out of it. Now, the Bible has no shortage of explanations indicating to us what our life is going to be like once we awaken to the truth. It's not an easy life. It's a narrow gate. It's a narrow path. And so we had to kind of lay out what the enemy was doing, because people have to see the enemy's obsession with the Most High. If you don't see the enemy's obsession with the Most High, then you're not going to get the rest of what I'm going to show you, because the enemy actually reveals themselves. They expose themselves, because everything that the enemy does is a knockoff of the Most High. So it's like a mirror. You're looking at the dark side in all of our media, entertainment, movie stars. But if there is a dark side, there must be a light side. And this is where this channel is going to start to begin to try to switch gears, because we've shown you our reality, the truth about your media, the truth about entertainment, the truth about showing you the truth about who gets to break through the glass ceiling, and that it was all about self-serving. So now we are going to follow the pathway of light into the human eye. This is where, I was thinking about, where should I start with this? Because there's so much information. Well, what I decided was, first of all, not to try to rush through this. Again, it's going to be a multi-part series. And to basically follow the pathway of light into your body. Why? Because Jesus says, I am the light of the world. And there's a lot of other verses that Jesus talks about light. But what he says is, I am the light of the world. Now, this word I in the Greek is spelled E-Y-E. Yes, E-Y-E. The last E is turned sideways, but you get the point. So let's see if we can click on this. Let's see what it'll do. I'll be in the chat in a minute, you guys. There it is here. You wouldn't believe it unless I showed you. And as I promised you, we're going to go step by step. We're going to lay out the entire argument for this. Here it is, E-Y-E. This is the word I. It's ego. Why does the Greek word look like I in your head? Your physical eye? Well, that is what we're going to get into. Now, what's another reason why we're going to follow the pathway of light to find the truth? Because Jesus' first miracle when he was 12 years old, and this number 12 will become very important in the body code as when we get to later episodes of the series. But basically, his very first miracle, after 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. So it's almost like he was having a debate with these doctors, and they probably thought they knew everything at the turn of the century of the millennium in 12 AD or whenever this was. And at 12 years old, all that heard him were astonished. Now, why would a doctor be astonished with what a 12-year-old was saying? They were astonished at his understanding and answers. When they saw him, they were amazed. What could Jesus possibly have been saying to a doctor who is supposed to be a professional who has knowledge of anatomy? Well, we're going to look at that, and you will be amazed. And no one else is covering this. The body code is unique to this channel. Other channels have looked at ancient Egyptology and seen the Eye of Ra and things like that. But no one is going to show you what I'm going to show you today. Now, hopefully our connection stays strong. I'm not going to be in Google Earth, so we shouldn't have the cutting out that we normally get. But what I wanted to show you before we get into the pathway of light is that in other versions of the Bible, they change that word doctors and they turn it into teachers. I was reading from the King James Version. Not that the King James is the be-all end-all, but back then people weren't as smart and they were able to tell them more of the truth without giving it all away. But in these newer versions, they substitute the word doctors for teachers to hide the truth. Now let's get into this. This is fascinating. We're going to follow the pathway of light. Let's blow this up. And this is from Bausch & Lomb. They make contact lenses. I thought this was a good video to kind of start with. Let's hide this. Because they take you in through the pathway of the eye, of light. Now remember, we're following the light because Jesus is the light, right? Light enters in through the cornea. There is a body of water here in the foreground called the aqueous humor. And through the lens, and you get this focusing effect. Now, what's up for debate is where this light focuses and flips, because it does invert. But I believe that this here is Earth. And we'll get to that too later in the series. But we're going to start in the eye. We don't want to get sidetracked here. Light comes in, goes through your optic nerve, and this is the pathway of light. Here it is. Here's the light. Here's the crossing of the image, flipping it upside down. And I believe this triangle here is the pyramid and the all-seeing eye. This is the governments of earth wanting to be gods on earth, okay? Again, we'll get into the details of that later in the series. I think this will probably go on 8 to 10 part series. So put on your seatbelts as we begin to tear this down, tear it apart, okay? All right, let's close this up. And get into what exactly is going on in the eye. And I pulled up some images here. Let's blow this up. We're going to go through the anatomy of the eye, and we're going to show you what this is all about. Now, what you're looking at here is a cross-section of the eye wall. There's anatomy and structures within the eye that seems to point back to the truth about the eye. Here's your inner eye. And this ora serrata here surrounds your lens. The light comes in, reflects here on the back. All of this area here is lined with the rods and cones, which pick up the light. This here is your retina, these branch-like structures, and the retina provides life. It provides oxygen and blood. This whole area in here, this vaulted area, is filled with the vitreous humor. So we have the aqueous humor down here and the vitreous humor here. Now it's interesting because there is a substance in your body called Wharton's jelly, and it only exists in 2 places in your body. One in the vitreous humor of the eye, and the other is in the umbilical cord of the child. And we've done videos comparing the womb to the child. And I know I'm repeating myself for some people, comparing the womb to the eye. But since we're starting from the beginning, we're going to take our time and we're going to lay this all out for you. Everyone's heard of Russian dolls. Russian dolls are basically dolls within dolls. And every time you open a doll, there's another one inside. Well, what God has done is he's created a Russian doll system so that you can keep opening the dolls and find your way back to him and his son. Now, this is fascinating because when you compare the womb to the eye, you get an exact overlay. It is a Russian doll. Now, why no one has made this comparison yet? I can't imagine I'm the only person that knows this, but we're going to explain it. This hyaloid canal is the umbilical cord of the eye. Why? Because what it does is it provides nutrients to the lens of your eye in utero, which means while the child is in the womb. So it provides nutrients to the lens as the lens is developing inside the eye as the child is in the womb, okay? Now, as it's providing this nutrients, when the child is born, this hyaloid canal disappears. It atrophies, it's programmed to cell destruction, which basically means that after its purpose is done, it withers away. Now inside here, inside the hyaloid canal is what's called, there's a blood line. There's a blood line here that connects this. There's actually a hyaloid artery is what it's called that connects this to here. And so once it's gone, it withers away. And that's exactly what happens with the child's umbilical cord. Within minutes, the umbilical cord atrophies and withers away once its purpose is done, which is to send nutrients to the child. Now, it's interesting because this hyaloid canal is connected also to the retina of the eye. And so what you have is, what I'm seeing here is a tree. Yes, this hyaloid canal forms the trunk of the tree, which is connected to the limbs and branches, which is your retina. And I believe what you're looking at here is the tree of life, or the tree in the garden. I'm sorry. We'll get to the tree of life soon, but this is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So we have two eyes, one good, one evil, right? Hopefully you're following me on this. Remember, we're starting with the pathway of light. This goes far deeper. When we get to the end of this series, there's going to be so many analogies, it's going to be undeniable if you can stick with it. Those that hunger for the truth will stick with it. Those that are looking for excuse to not believe it won't. That's how God works. He meets you halfway. So we're looking at the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We have two eyes in our heads, good and evil. That's why Jesus says, if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. If your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It's in the Bible. Now let's go on with this hyaloid canal. Because, remember Katy Perry's song, Seeing Life Through a Lens of the White Picket Fence? Life through a lens, white picket fence. They know. So, what happens when a child's umbilical cord is cut off? What is it called for you nurses out there? It is called a stump. And all over the earth, we have what we're told is columnar basalt. But what it really is are stumps, tree stumps of these great trees that were on earth that used to reach to the heavens. You're starting to see the picture. This will become clearer as I keep going with these analogies. It's going to become undeniable. Well, if there's stumps all over the earth, we're told are lava, like the Devil's Tower in Wyoming, what proof do we have of that? You can't just say that. Well, the proof is, if you're standing on here and you cut through the center of this is the lens of your eye, you get a matrix that looks exactly like the cross sections of these columnar basalt stumps that we're seeing all over the earth. It looks exactly like that, right under our feet. This is where I believe we live. Now let's keep going with this, because can't stop there, right? We've established our tree of knowledge of good and evil. And now we're going to look at other structures. Now, what's down here, Casey, in the aqueous humor? This is hell. This is the looking out into the material realm. Okay, this is what gets us in trouble. There's a new film coming out. It's about a woman who's blind, and she's given the gift of sight. I saw a trailer on it a couple days ago, and she's married to her husband, of course. But as soon as she gets her sight, she realizes that she's beautiful. Now you see, I have very little. So I was telling you guys a story about a trailer that I saw in which a woman was blind, but then she's given the gift of sight. She realizes she's beautiful, and it starts causing problems in her relationship. She realizes that she's not as attracted to her husband as she thought, just based on his voice and his personality, and it causes all kinds of problems. So what I was trying to demonstrate to you guys is that the looking out into the material realm is what gets us into trouble. It is the what causes the lust. It's what causes all of these things. Okay, that's why Jesus says, if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out, because your right eye is controlled by the left side of your brain. Everything crosses in the middle, and this is where we're going to get to the crucifixion later on in the series. Make sure we're still connected. Unreal. Sound is fine, no image. Okay, let's try this. Oh, because it knocked me off of the screen sharing. Okay. Present to everyone. All right, good. All right, we're back. Sorry, guys. No reason why that should have done that time. Sabotage, right? As I said, this is some of the most profound information you're ever going to hear. They don't want you to know it. More people that know it, it's going to spread like wildfire, and they will lose the battle. Let's get back to this. So I showed you the tree, knowledge of good and evil. This is the realm that we've been trapped in. And remember, when Eve ate of the tree, what happened, you guys? Her eyes were opened. Now you know what that means. She ate of the tree. Her eyes were opened. Okay, let me see here. What's up with this, man? They are messing with me hardcore. Okay, good, we're back. All right, let's keep going with this. Now today we're probably only going to get to the eye, but this goes so much deeper. So much deeper, you guys. All right. Casey, how is the eye like the womb? Please extrapolate. Okay, let me extrapolate this for you. This is your iris down here. This is what gives you the color of your eye. It opens and closes as light enters your eye. If it's too bright, it will constrict your pupil so that it does not damage your lens in your eye. And if it is dark, it expands. And what that does is allows more light into your eye so you can make out objects. This is simple eye physiology, public knowledge. But what they don't tell you is that this iris also represents the cervix. And when you're born into sin, into this realm, you are born with a crown of sin. Basically, you crown into the material realm, to the beast realm. Okay, you lose your crown in heaven and you're born into the beast realm. The child has the umbilical cord. We talked about what that means. That is the hyaloid canal, and the placenta becomes the retina, providing blood. Now this goes on because a child gestates in the womb after the last menses for 40 weeks. Now you know why they call it 20/20 vision, because 20 and 20 is 40. Now, if you look in the Bible, the womb is called the matrix. Let's look that up. Let me do this right. Matrix. Womb. Okay, they're trying to say it's a Mandela effect now. You are now born from the matrix. Exodus 13:12. All that openeth the matrix is mine. The womb is the matrix. Okay. King James Bible. Now, why would they say that? Because when you cross-section, these are the rods and cones all around the eye. When you cross-section the rods and cones, you get, again, a honeycomb matrix. So we already had a honeycomb matrix, the beehive, underneath our feet, and now we have it in the sky. This is the vault. This is the earth. This is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Here's our white picket fence. The stars are fixed in the firmament. This is the firmament. This is our world. Hell is down here. There are actually 3 levels to the matrix. Okay? Remember, God says we're born into sin. We literally are. We're born into a beast body. Okay? There are 3 levels to the matrix. One in this cross section here, let me show you. These are the rods and cones. This is in the sidewall of the eye. Born into this matrix this way. Now, remember, everything's opposites. So there's 3 levels. When you cross-section this cornea down here, forms part of the prism. We're surrounded by the prism. It's under our feet, in the lens, and it's in the walls here. Those are the 3 areas that are cross-section that form a honeycomb matrix. I'm not going to go into that much detail. You can look it up for yourself. Endothelial cornea, if you're interested, cross-section, Google that. Google that. And rods and cone cross-section, Google that, and you'll find your answers. You will see the honeycomb matrix. Now, we've just compared the womb to the eye. It's undeniable. Why hasn't anyone done this in physiology yet? What else do we have here? Okay, Casey, if this is our Earth, then, and the stars are fixed, why are they moving? I believe this is the answer, and this is called the vortex above us. I believe the movement is an illusion. I believe the vortex, and this is where we get a little bit into the esoteric, and these are my personal theories. It cannot ever be proven. And so you can take them or leave them. But basically what you're looking at here is a kaleidoscope effect of light as it passes into a reflective vault. I'll say that again. What you're looking at here is the kaleidoscope effect of light as it enters an enclosed reflective vault. It's a giant mirror in here. And this is what the light does. This is how it scatters. It becomes a kaleidoscope effect. And when you look at this as your viewing area, you begin to see that this actually matches what you would see in the stars. Okay? Now, I believe the Earth model is a raised flat surface, and this is where flat earthers, people actually think I'm a flat earther, and I'm not. I believe the Earth has a slightly raised convex surface, exactly what you see in the lens of your eye. Okay? And I believe the equator is somewhere around here in the middle. Again, Antarctica surrounds this. We have a giant ice wall. North Pole is at the tip here. Let's blow this up. This is how light travels, is scattered. Uh-oh. There. Make sure we're still connected. Good. And this is the UN map. When you look at the UN flag, they show us these lines. This becomes the path of the sun and the moon spinning around atop the fixed Earth. I don't want to get too much into this discussion about the convex raised Earth. I'm proving it to you with all the other supporting evidence that points to the eye being the shape of the universe, okay? Once you understand that, then it's easy to accept that the lens then becomes the Earth. Now, people are like, okay, well, that can't be because if there's any curvature, the water will spill off. Nope. Imagine that this is level in places where the oceans fall and the rivers fall. Imagine this a tiered mountain. Mountains have lakes. The water doesn't fall off the side of the mountain, does it? Because it collects in lakes. And that's exactly what I believe the world is. It's basically higher in the middle, and on the outsides, it's lower. And water collects in pools, which become our oceans and topography. That's what I believe, okay? Why do I believe that? Because everything else points to the eye being the shape, so the lens has to fit into that. Now, all this kaleidoscope effect here, this is crazy because this is real. Again, this is how light scatters in an inner reflective globe. But what you didn't know is that this same pattern is the current vitreous humor fluid inside of your eye. The current, they measured this, they put dye inside of the inner eye of a person, and they watched the current flow around. And it flows and scatters just as light would inside your eye as it's reflected. To me, that's fascinating. More proof. Again, this is the fluid inside your eye, the vitreous humor, and this is the circulation, the current of it as they've measured it. This also becomes the spinning stars that we see in the night sky. Let's make sure we're connected. I hate to keep checking. Oh God, here we go. Okay, there it is. Good. Stressful, you guys. Them knocking us off all the time. I'm trying to give a presentation here, and they're just messing with us. Always do. Okay, this becomes the star spin. Remember, you're looking at the inner current of the eye. Now I'm going to show you something that's going to blow you away. Night sky equator time lapse photography. And this is when it's going to begin to settle in. It's going to begin to convince you. It's going to begin to make sense once you start seeing images like this. This is real. Nobody made this up. This is a time-lapse, stop-motion image at the equator of Earth. I think this one was in Ecuador. And they followed the path of the stars as it traveled through the sky for the 9 or 12 hours that it was dark. And here on the horizon, you can see dawn and dusk. And this is this. The inner eye, our sky. This becomes the lens. This is fascinating. It's the same image. The star flow, we'll call it. Now, Casey, what is this? Let's get back onto this. This is real. This is a real image. This is the North Pole Star and the South Pole Star. They're calling it the South Pole. I don't think there is a South Pole. I think there's a South Ring. Again, that's a whole nother discussion. Let's stay focused here. This is the star pattern. This is what we see. It gives it away. All right. Now, in Psalm 23, when David said, I shall walk through the valley of the shadow of death, The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I shall lay down in green pastures, is kind of how the verse goes. I think this here is the valley of the shadow of death. This is where we are. We've dropped into. He is my rod and staff. Well, a staff is straight, a rod is curved. You look at biblical images of ancient rods and staffs, you will see. And God breaks us through the eyes of Molech. These are the owl eyes of Molech. Imagine you're standing on a glass floor and you can see below the horizon, you have owl eyes. And this is why the evil ones worship Molech. Okay. That's why Molech is milk, M-L-K. And because the Milky Way of the sky. Molech, Milky Way. I know I'm kind of talking like we're all in third grade, but sometimes these concepts are easy for me to understand, but when I'm explaining to other people, it takes a minute to sink in. M-O-L-E-K is the phonetic spelling of Molech. When you take the M, the L, and the K out, you get milk. This is why every time you see someone die in a movie, they're drinking milk or milk is spilt. You'll start to see this now that I've mentioned it to you. This is why they put kids on the milk carton. Okay? Now, let me keep going with this. Let me refresh this. Here, refreshed. Now you know who Molech is. Now you know why they worship owls. You get it now. Well, Casey, you know, God made the sky. Why? Because this is sin. The stars wouldn't do this if we weren't locked down here in the sinful realm. Okay? And therefore the enemy worships this. The whole spinning thing, we're all spinning, right? We're all dizzy. That's sin. We're dizzy. Okay? From being here. It's part of like the hall of mirrors. Everything's reflecting and confusing us. Everything's inverted. It's upside down. It's spinning. That's why you always see these images of the spiral and the swirl. Anytime they want to like put you to sleep, they show the swirling action, right? That's bad. That's a bad thing. Okay? So that's why they worship this Molech, the spinning and confusion. Babylon, right? Okay? What is Babylon? We're babies. We're born into this beast realm as babies, babbling. Is it all starting to sink in yet? Now, let's keep going with this. Got a couple more images I want to show you guys. Okay, let's look at this one. Okay, Casey, so this light here that comes in forms like a pyramid. Now you can understand why they use the pyramid and all-seeing eye as their symbol. Okay? Because that represents the pyramids on earth, capstoning with the eye, but blocking the upper pathway of light, which forms another pyramid going back to heaven, an inverted pyramid. You kind of almost see it here. Here's the inverted pyramid. Here's the pyramids on earth. They want to be pharaohs on earth. Pharaohs are Pharisees. They want to rule over man and cut God out. They want to be the brokers of faith and control. Pharaoh, Pharisees. Up here is the inverted pyramid. Going back to heaven, this is the light. Now we're going to get into the pathway because we're still stuck in the eye. This goes in and crosses at the optic nerve, and that is the crucifixion, but we'll get into that. That might be the next show. The groundwork and show you guys the structures of the inner eye and how this becomes our universe. And next, we'll get into the light passing in through the optic nerve and what all that means. Now, while we're here with the eye, let's see here. Let's see what else we have here. Let's see here. That's about all I had with these. Now, in later shows, we're going to show you biblical history, events going back to the beginning of the Bible, the beginning, the flood, and even Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, which overlay this image here, all right? We're going to see the anatomy of the eye repeated over and over again in biblical stories. It doesn't mean the stories did not happen. What this is a confirmation that God is real, because he had the Bible patriarchs act out through the will of God. He gave them instructions. What do you mean, Casey? Well, there's a reason why God told the Israelites to pass through the Red Sea. Are you seeing what I'm telling you? There's a reason why only a remnant passed through the Red Sea during the Exodus out of Egypt. Remember, I told you the pyramids were here in Egypt, all over the earth. There's a reason why God had them exodus through the Red Sea. Are you understanding what I'm saying here? There's a reason why there was a remnant, because in here, when the hyaloid canal dissipates after birth, what is left is a remnant. Yes, it is called a remnant, and they're called floaters, and it's leftover hyaloid canal, the hyaloid artery, and it looks like floaters in your eyes. It looks like a string of pearls. Okay, that's the Israelite remnant that came out of the pyramids, came out of Egypt, headed toward the promised land. How long were they in the wilderness when they parted through the Red Sea? Parted hyaloid canal. See this? It's all here, you guys. How long were they there? 40 years. 40 weeks is the gestation of the child. There's also some 40 synchronicities I can't think of off the top of my head that deal with this hyaloid canal. I think when the fetus is 40 millimeters, this develops in their eye. So there's all these 40s. Okay. Now you know why they went through the Red Sea. What was leading them through the Red Sea during the Exodus? It was the Ark of the Covenant. What is the Ark? Ark of light. The Ark, the pillar of fire by night, the pillar of cloud by day, is what it was led by the Spirit of God. Okay. Which points back to the flood ark that Noah built. Where did he pass through? It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Let's make sure we're still connected. Good, we're still connected. Rained for 40 days and 40 nights as he passed through his Red Sea with what? A remnant, 8 souls to restart the world. And here's your ark. This is the bow. Forms an arc. It's the surface of the lens. This is your Ark of the Covenant. It's actually the ark too of the flood. 40, 40, 40, 40. I can't repeat that enough. 2020 vision is 40. 2020 is 40. Noah passed through. Narrow gate. What did Jesus say? If don't take the speck, asking someone else to take the speck out of their eye when you have a beam in yours. The speck is the remnant. They look like specks. The beam fits in through this wide gate, which is your iris and your pupil, but the speck can fit through the narrow gate. And this is the highway canal. This is what Jesus was talking about when he said the road is narrow. He was trying to tell you that the truth, the kingdom of heaven is within. That's in the Bible too. He said the kingdom of heaven is within. What he was telling you was that the truth about who he is, that proves who he is, because no one knew this inner anatomy and physiology. But the first clue that he gave us was when he was in the temple with the doctors. That right there, the very first miracle Jesus ever performed, should have given us the clues of what to look for. But this is a two-way street. And people can say, well, how did Jesus expect us to know anatomy? And how? He's showing you right now through my lips. The question is, are you going to believe it? Is your ego going to allow you to listen to the words of a sinner? I'm a sinner just like all of you. I'm no one special. But when you hear the truth, you have a choice to make. Are you going to accept it? Doesn't matter whose mouth it's coming out of. The truth is the truth. But a lot of people will reject this because they didn't hear it from a pastor. A lot of people will reject this because they will say, this, why now? Why you? Their ego will take over. They will deny the information, no matter how detailed I get into this. I'm in the chat and I see you guys making more connections. Apple of my eye. Israel's the apple of my eye. Exactly. And it goes on and on and on. Identify this, says Siri backwards is Iris. Exactly. Once you understand that the reason why the Illuminati chose the eye is to throw you off the trail. They don't want you to be looking into the eye for truth. Therefore, they've chosen the most symbolic and revelatory, if that's a word, image and object, so that you'll never look inside of it to find the answers. But yet all the answers are right here. So now we have two examples, the flood and the Exodus out of Egypt. But there's one more. You ready for this? It's going to blow you away. How long did Jesus fast in the wilderness? He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, this is where things get interesting, because while Noah was in the ark, they were cut off from the world's food supply. They had loaded up the ark with all these supplies, but in effect, they were fasting from the world. And when the Israelites passed through the Red Sea for 40 years, they were fasting. What were they given? They were given manna. And when Jesus was fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, now you get why the hyaloid canal is the umbilical cord of the child. Because what is a child doing in the womb? They are in effect fasting. No solid food, living off of the nutrients of the mother. And if that doesn't drive it all home for you, I don't know what will. Hiding in plain sight, the kingdom of heaven is within you. There is the proof of the one and only true God. We haven't even got to the cross yet. We're still in the eye. We haven't even got to the cross yet. How did the writers of the flood and the writers of the Bible who wrote about the Exodus, they had no idea there was a hyaloid canal inside your eye. They had no idea what the structure of the inner eye was. How did they know? Because God told them, and Noah listened through faith, and he acted out and played out The history of the world was played out through the Bible patriarchs to overlay our inner anatomy so that one day when the knowledge increased, all who would know who the true God is. There would be no denying Jesus at this point. Well, we haven't even got to Jesus yet, but right now we just confirmed the entire Old Testament. We'll get into the New Testament on later shows, but I'll give you a little teaser. Because you guys are smart, you know there's two eyes in your head, and you know that these optic nerves cross in the middle of your brain, and you know at the crucifixion of the cross, there were two thieves, one at the right and one at the left of Jesus. They are the eyes. Stealing, thieves stealing your salvation through the looking out instead of looking within. And we'll go into much more detail in future shows. But that is the gist of it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in this eye that I've missed. Oh, why won't this turn sideways? Let's do this. Let's close this. Let's do this. What I wanted to do was show you guys, the pineal is the seat of the soul. And your pineal gland, it's an antenna. I want to be clear. It is simply an antenna. It is powered and driven by the Holy Spirit, or it could be powered and driven by evil. That's why Jesus said, the eye is the lamp of the body. He was talking about your pineal. He said if your eye is single, which means one, the pineal, your whole body will be full of light. But he said if your eye is dark, your whole body will be full of darkness. And it is true. Your pineal in utero, in the womb, is developed at 49 days. That is when your soul is put into your body. At 49 days, which is 7 times 7. 77. And 7 is the number of Christ. 7 is the number of Christ. So guess what? You know the morning after pill? They just extended use for the morning after pill past 7 weeks. Why did they do that? It is so that technically a mother could murder her child. That's after the pineal gland is established and developed in the fetus with a pill. This is how evil these people are. Now, I know this is a lot of information, so we're going to go slow. We're in the eye. Trying to think if there's anything I've missed. Here's the playlist. For those of you that want to jump ahead, please don't jump too far ahead. And if you want to, that's fine. And then if you have questions, you can pop them in the chat. This is the playlist, the body code, the kingdom of heaven mapped within you. I've got 76 videos. A lot of them are very short. This one's very in depth. What we're going to get to next on future shows is the history of the world mapped out in the pathway of light. We're going to go through this whole pathway. We're going to go through the earth ages. We're going to show Yeshua in the middle. I'm going to show you the entire thing. What else do we have here? Let's go back in here. So that's what's going on. I had to switch some things around. I had this messed up a little bit. We have this duality world, right? Good and evil. These are the trees of the knowledge of good and evil. These are your eyes. That's why Eve's eyes were opened. This doesn't mean Eve was evil, but I had to put her on that side. It's the duality that I'm trying to show here. Abel's actually supposed to be on this side with Adam. Cain is supposed to be over here. So I had to switch these around a bit because early on I got a little confused. I put all this together. I didn't borrow this from anything. We're going to go through that. We're also going to go through the earth ages. I'm going to show you how every event or every section of the entire Bible falls into the earth ages. What are the earth ages, Casey? The earth ages were 2,000-year periods in which a constellation was dominant on the horizon at the setting sun for that 2,000-year period. And that is called the precession of the equinox. This is a natural phenomenon in which every 2,000 years, a new constellation is dominant in the sky on the horizon in the east or the west, I think it is. I can't remember if it's the rising sun or the setting sun. And what we found in the Bible, again, this was an original discovery here on Enter the Stars, was that for every 2,000-year period, that constellation, its name was prominent in the Bible stories. Again, how would they have known that? Unless it was inspired by God. So when people tell me that the Bible is written by Freemasons to control all of us, I reject that. Unless you think Freemasons are gods that created us. Okay? The Bible is the one fragment, the one remnant of truth that was God spiritually, through spiritual law, has allowed us to keep and hold on to and read to find the truth. It's also in the body code as well. And that's what we're showing you guys on this show. But basically, I map out all of the events in the Bible that overlay the zodiac. What is the zodiac? Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces, Aquarius. Yes, it overlay it exactly. This is an astrology. I'm not an astrologer. I'm simply showing you what's in the sky. The signs are in the sky, which is, it says that in the Bible too. All right. I think that's, man, my brain's about to explode. I can only imagine what your guys' brains are doing right now. So what I'm going to do is answer some questions after a 5-minute potty break in the chat, and then we'll be all ready for part 2. Probably in a couple of days, you guys. I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm back. And let's do a little question and answer session for any parts of this that might not make sense for you guys, or may have, didn't quite settle in. Does have any questions about it? The beauty of what we do here on this channel is I'm not asking you guys for anything. I'm not passing around a collection plate. This knowledge is free. I hope that other channels pick up on this and talk about it. And that's the difference. Now, Timothy asks, so if this is the age of Aquarius, what's next? I'm glad you asked that. Let's talk about the ministry of Christ. Now, it's interesting because people that don't see everything that I'm presenting, sometimes the fundamental Christians will attack me. And they will say, how can this be the most important discovery? The gospel is. Yes, the gospel is. But until you understand this, you'll never understand the gospel. You have to get the whole picture in order to appreciate the gospel. Then all of a sudden, the gospel makes so much more sense. Let me explain to you the life of Jesus, and this is going to blow you away. Because everything that Jesus did had to do with water. And we're going to show this in the history following the pathway of light in the brain in future things. But I'm just going to kind of give you a 30,000-foot view. He turned water into wine. He cast the net to the right side in the water to collect the fish. He turned two fish into to feed the crowd. And it's interesting because those two fish represent the age of Pisces. Pisces, the symbol for Pisces is two fish, and that was the age that Jesus was born in. He was born in the age of Pisces. What else did he do? He walked on water. I'm telling you all the water themes in the Bible. This is just off the top of my head. I may miss some. He told his disciple to go and catch a fish, and there would be a coin in its mouth to pay tribute to Caesar. Baptism. Everything had to do with water. Why did Jesus say be born again? Are you starting to understand why you have to be immersed in the water? Because when you're immersed in the vitreous humor of the eye, you're born into a new world, into a new bloodline. You're born into the bloodline of Christ. When you're baptized, you are born. Ever wonder why the amniotic fluid for you mothers out there is called amniotic fluid? You ever wonder why amnesia has the first 5 letters as amniotic fluid? It's because we've forgotten this knowledge. Faith used to be easier because people knew all this. Now that brings me back to the question of Aquarius that you guys had earlier. Aquarius is the water. It is the water symbol. This is the age in which Jesus will return, because everything he did about water, remember the woman at the well, that's another water story. Everything he did, washing the feet, exactly, Timothy, everything had to do with water. Aquarius. And watch this. What was I going to show you guys? Remember that, let's see here, before the appointed time. Okay. Matthew 8:29. That's what I was going to show you. Remember this story? No one knows the day or the hour. This is why I tell you guys, none of the Bible patriarchs named an exact date. None of the prophets named exact dates of the future. If you can name one, I could be wrong. But as a general rule, they did not name dates. So anytime I see date setting, everyone's talking about 9/23. I've learned to not fall for it. Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time, not proper time? Again, you got to look at the correct translations. And the King James isn't always right. But we're going to use it in this instance because the demons said to Jesus to kill us before the appointed time. Let's see here. And what did Jesus say? Where is it? Okay, here it is. Okay, remember he was casting out demons here? Tormentest us before the time. What time were they talking about? Obviously, they knew it wasn't time yet. So they had a general idea of when the end would come. Though they didn't know the day or the hour, they could have known the age of Aquarius. They knew it wasn't the time for them to die, to get their torment, to get their punishment. So what did Jesus do? Keyword being time, right? Remember that word. He said, he cast them out into a herd of swine. How many swine did he cast them out into? Well, this is why we're given several witnesses in the Bible. This verse, and why did they, why did they run down into the sea? Remember the water, okay? Perishing in the waters. I'm going to explain it to you. I mean, this is crazy. All right. 2,000 pigs. Why won't it kill swine? Okay. There were 2,000 pigs. There it is. I'm just looking for the number because I want you guys to see this. Do you understand that 2,000 is the Earth age? Some people say it's 2,160 years, but in general, it is roughly 2,000 years. Okay? Were sent into 2,000 pigs. This is in the book of Mark, I believe, because they retell the stories a couple different times, right? In different gospels. Guess what, you guys? 2,000 years after Jesus performed this miracle puts us in the beginning of the age of Aquarius. The water sign. We're here. He's returning. These are the last days. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. Now watch this. Oops, it's going to blow you away even more. Because the disciples were preparing for the Passover. Where do you want us to prepare for it? The disciples asked Jesus. To pass over into the new earth age of Aquarius. He answered, Jesus said to them, when you enter the city, a man carrying a jug of water will meet you. That is the sign for Aquarius. Here is the man carrying the jug of water. The signs are in the heavens, and the kingdom of heaven is within. How did Jesus know? If this was all written by Freemasons who aren't supposed to have understood the precession of the equinox at the time this was written in 60 AD, how did they know that in 2,000 years that the Aquarius would be on the horizon? Because Jesus is the Son of God. Where did Jesus tell them to go? The upper rooms. See if it says it here in the King James. Bearing a pitcher of water, follow him into the house. What do they call when you go from one earth age to another in the zodiac? They call them houses. Okay. Now, if this isn't resonating with you, we're going to go into much more detail, overlaying the Bible to each earth age. We're focused on Aquarius and Pisces right now just because someone had asked the question about Aquarius, but we're going to go into more detail, all the other Bible stories that overlay all of the other earth ages. And it's fascinating. Again, a future show. And what else do we have here? Back in the chat, you guys, let's answer a couple more questions. I want to keep these down to like hour and a half. I don't want them to be too long because this information can get overwhelming. It all has to kind of settle in. All right. Gosh, we have no trolls in here tonight. This is awesome. Adrian, I see some new faces in here. See some old friends. There's Debbie. Identify this. You're welcome, Adrian. Much love to you. Sometimes, some of us are right brain thinkers and some of us are left brain thinkers. Some of us are Messiah brain thinkers. Some of us are science-based thinkers. God can reach all of us. Even the most scientific mind cannot deny what I have showed you guys, and I'm just barely about 10% into it. He can reach us all. Why? Because he's amazing. He's infinite. He's the God of the universe. And he can do anything. You think he didn't have a plan to reach people in the last days? Of course he had a plan. I'm glad to be part of it. Okay? Hollywood spends so much time discrediting God and making you, like this, what was it? Identify this. What's that show? Oh, American Gods or something? Where they discredit God and put you through heartache and tragedy in your life. They kidnap your kids. But where's the truth? It's because they've hidden the truth. And they mock you. They're mocking God every turn they get. Even when they try to show God, they mock him. And I'll never forget, I was watching a thriller. It was about a girl that got abducted right out of the front yard. And I think it had Jake Gyllenhaal in it, I think, was in it. And it was a story about this family, and they were heartbroken. And the dad never gave up. He kept searching and searching for his daughter. And finally, he found her. And they had dug a hole and buried her in a pit, put a board over it, and drove a car over it so no one would ever find her. And when the man finally knocked on the door, a woman answered the door. And he had no idea she was the kidnapper. And she quickly overtook him because he was caught off guard. And she threw him down in the pit. While he was down there, she said to him, "This is how we wage war on God. We steal your children When you can't find them, you have lost all hope in God. Because you think, what kind of God would allow this? This is how they wage war on God. And that is the truth, you guys. That is the truth. Don't give in to that hate. Don't give in to that hopelessness. There's hope. And if the enemy is spending all this time fighting God and misrepresenting him in their movies and TV, then you can believe there is a God. Why would they spend on why aren't we seeing TV shows of stuff that has nothing to do with God? If all these people are supposed to be atheists, why do we keep finding these biblical themes in everything they do? Because it's sorcery. They're trying to turn you off to God subliminally. How many times do we see the David and Goliath story played out over and 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 over again? The underdog, the small guy fighting the giant. How many times do we see that story played out? How many times do we see the story of a flood played out? How many times do we see the story of a Jezebel? Now, there's a million other places you guys could be tonight, but you're here listening. It's all I ever asked from you guys, is to listen to the truth. Again, this is part one of a series. Looks like they're going to give us some more technical difficulties, so I think this is probably a good time to let you guys go. Love you guys. And we'll do this again soon. Maybe Sunday we'll have part two. Take care and be safe.